Hey guys, we are back and it is October, but I'm hanging out in my backyard because fall has not yet arrived in California, and so I am going to soak up every last second of beautiful summer sunlight or fall, I guess, technically, sunlight, because I realize these evenings are going to get really short and really dark really quickly, and so we are out in the backyard. There is a little bit of background noise with the wind and a little bit of traffic, but I am hoping you can bear with me and it will all be okay. So this month we are back with Speak Up, obviously, and we are talking about fear. It is definitely something that I have struggled with throughout my life. I am not fearful in the anxious way, in the I can't sleep, heart racing way. I am fearful in that I cannot keep fear in its context. And what I mean by that is I believe that fear is very much an important thing in our lives. I believe that it's more of an alert or an alarm than a full-on feeling. I believe that what happens with fear is it wakes us up to a perceived threat or danger, and then from that we develop feelings, maybe anxiety, maybe anger, maybe sadness, maybe despair, or maybe we decide that the alert wasn't worth it and we put it on snooze and worry about it later. Um, I have just recently sort of put this fear in this context, or approached fear in this way, and it's been really helpful because it allows me to sort of define what it is that the alarm means, and then logically approach a solution, and sometimes, or logically sort of troubleshoot, and sometimes that is easier said than done. It certainly sounds very logical and simple, and I can attest that it is anything but that, but I have found a few things helpful, and so I was going to share those. First and foremost, I always have to remind myself that feelings are, yes, important, but are not the truth. I sometimes feel like I'm condemned, or feel like I'm worthless, or feel shame, and I am not defined by those things. Those are not the truth of me. They might be they are more of a circumstance than the whole picture. And so I think that is an important thing to remember. Sometimes you'll get the fear alert, the fear alarm, and you'll immediately react to it and assume that because you're having those feelings, or reason that because you have the feeling, you get to act out on it. And that is not always the case, or that is not always the smartest, the most adult or mature thing to do. Sometimes we get a fear alarm, and the best thing to do is just to take a step back and take a deep breath and sort of problem solve instead of panicking. We had a guy at work break something the other day, and I could just tell he was really upset about it, and he was panicked, and it was like, okay, this is no big deal, we can figure this out, and we have a couple different options, but he just couldn't even fathom that in those initial moments. He needed to fix it now because he was afraid he was going to disappoint someone, and that just, don't hold on to those initial feelings. Don't let those define this, the alarm. A lot of times what happens is something we fear, something we worry about, maybe being forgotten or replaced, or those things, those are valid feelings, but those should not be what you use to define your actions. Does that make sense? Hopefully. Something else that has helped a lot is seeking counsel, especially when I feel super fearful about certain things. Jason is a great sounding board. He's also a boy and very brave, and not as easily alarmed, I guess. Maybe I'm more skittish like a cat and he's more mellow like a dog. I don't know. But seeking counsel, saying this, giving a voice to your fear or your alarm, acknowledging your alarm out loud, and then saying, gosh, this is how it makes me feel, or this is what it makes me want to do. And sometimes he says, you're right, totally, go and do that. And sometimes he's like, girl, you crazy, don't do that. Sit down and chill out. And then lastly, finally, a lot of times what helps is to write it out. I know I'm supposed to say pray because that is what good God-loving girls say, but I usually write it out, and maybe written prayer is, maybe that's what that is, but I don't consider myself a great prayer. I don't have I don't have a strong and, bold prayer life. I am a mellow I am a mellow prayer, if that can be a thing. And so prayer warrior does not describe me. How about that? So it's easier for me. I feel less pressure just to write it down. And I feel in doing that, I'm sort of giving it over. So I guess I am praying in that it's presented to God on paper. But I realize when I attach prayer to things, sometimes that stresses me out. And then that on top of fear is just really super overwhelming. So yes, that was like a giant word vomit of all the things fear solving. But I guess what I want the takeaway to be is fear is important to acknowledge. Fear is what can sort of determine our fight or flight reaction, and those are, biological evolutionary necessities. But it is not a definition. It is not always purposeful. There's not always a threat, and so you need to sort of keep it in its place and be prepared to just react, or be prepared to make a pros and cons list about reacting, to determine if it's worth reacting. Yeah, that's it. Sorry, guys. This is longer than I normally do. That is it. I hope to see some Speak Up links below. Of course, go see Annie. Annie's freaking awesome. And after Influence Conference, something just like exploded in her heart, and she's like this freaking god firework. It's amazing. So get a load of that. I'm sure she has amazing things to say today. And then we will see you next month, the first Friday in November, which is the 6th. And we are going to be talking about gathering. Maybe that could spin off into community or menus or the importance of a table in your life, things like that. See y'all next week.